Salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Surah Fatiha.
Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad salawat. Mu'minin, our Marshal reciter today is Master Ali Osman, and the Marshal he is going to be reciting, he himself has composed this Marshal, so please let's welcome with a loud salawat.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. O my Imam, Syed Sajidin. O my Imam, Syed Sajidin. You are the son of Shahid, your blood was from Husain. I will come crying to you, O the one who suffered pain. O my Imam, Syed Sajidin. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin, the master of prostration, you taught me how to pray. So when I seek forgiveness, I will call out your name. O my Imam, Sayyid Sajidin. O my Imam, Sayyid Sajidin. You supported your father in his time of need, and for the sake of Islam, Hussein became Shaheed. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin. O grandson of Ali, O father of Muhammad, your sister was Sakina, who died in prison. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin. You had responsibility for the ladies and children. You succeeded in this task, for this I can say. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin. O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajidin. Bimar Karbala, oh grant this Shafa, we pray to Allah by your wasita, O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajideen, O my Imam, Sayyidus Sajideen, wa Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
Thank you, Haji. Bismillah. Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad salawat. Nasalli ala Muhammadin wa ali. Mu'minin, I now request upon the chairman of our Husaini Islamic Center, the Right Honorable Rizwan Bhai Rahmatullah, to come and address our honorable guest. Please let's with him a loud salawat.
Azamullahu ajurana wa ajurakam bi musabina bil Husain alayhi salam. My dear scholars, my elders, my brothers, my sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It gives me a great honor to stand here to welcome our Pramukh from the World Federation, Al-Hajj Sheikh Safdar Jafar, to Peterborough. Sheikh is a busy person with a great responsibility for all the Khoja Shia Ithna Ashris around the world. To take time out from such a heavy and busy schedule certainly means a lot to me, and it certainly means a lot to all members of our community, because it shows that Sheikh is a humble individual who has a passion to serve. For those of you who subscribe to the World Federation broadcast, will see the amazing work that the World Federation are undertaking under Sheikh's leadership, and the countless lives that have been changed as a result. I pray, and I ask you to join me in praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward him, his team, and all those that are involved in the noble work, and to give us all the strength to be able to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of our abilities. I call upon the President of the World Federation, Al-Hajj Sheikh Safdar Jafar, to join me on the podium. Please welcome him with a loud Nare Salawat.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Please. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa bihi nasta'in wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ahli baytihi at-tahirin. Respected President of Peterborough Jamaat Al-Hajj Rizwan Bhai, respected scholar, elders of the community, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, my condolences to all of you as we commemorate the Arba'een of Sayyid al-Shuhada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the efforts of everybody involved in this great mission of reminding ourselves of the mission of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. It gives me great pleasure to be here in Peterborough. Rizwan Bhai was one of the first leaders of the community. As I arrived here and he came to know, he invited me to Peterborough. We have been to almost many of the Jamaats, and I'm delighted to be here. And it is also great to see this beautiful complex now. For the first time, I'm coming to this, to witness this place. When I was here a few years ago during the month of Muharram, I was given a tour of the project, but it is good to see the completion and the commencement of the program. So, in this month of Ayyam, I don't want to congratulate you, but I want to commend you. And as somebody reminded us in Arabic, Mubarak actually is barakah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase the barakah of this center, inshallah. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Peterborough Jamaat for having participated and continuously participate in World Federation activities. Of course, the Madrasa Center of Excellence, there will be a curriculum that takes place in this madrasa. Thanks for all your support. We also thank you for your kind and generous donations for the recent Ali Asghar water appeal, and we were delighted that there were members of Peterborough Jamaat that participated in the cycling event to raise money for the underprivileged throughout the world who lack basic necessities such as water, which can transform and change lives. And you have played a part and parcel of that, so Jazakallah, khair al-jaza for that. I would also like to add that the Kadhimiya project, where some of you have contributed, thank you very much for that. This project, for those who probably don't know, is an important project that World Federation, together with the support of the global community, the Shia community, has embarked upon. And that is when we visited Qazmain, the authorities of Kadhimiya mentioned to us that the sahan of Imam al-Jawadain, Imam al-Qadim alayhi salam and Imam al-Jawad alayhi salatu salam, the haram, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, the haram, as you enter the sahan from Bab Murad and Bab Qibla, and the sahan there, to stand there for a few minutes, particularly when it's hot, it's difficult. To pray salat there is very difficult, to pray ziyarat during the summer months especially. And the tiles are now depleted and require complete renovation and new tiles. And the authorities at that time studied and felt that the tiles that are used in Makkah and Medina, when you go for Umrah, you can even pray and do your tawaf at the peak of the heat without any issues to your foot, to the sole. But when you go to Qadmain, you cannot do that. So they want to replace the entire tiles in the haram over there in the sahan, and they were seeking for support, and we were privileged as the Khoja community worldwide to facilitate through the World Federation a support structure where every Zair who goes for the Ziyarat, inshallah, with our du'as and support, if we can get new tiles throughout the haram, our community benefits in Baqiyatul Salihat till the Day of Judgment. So this is an opportunity. We announced every tile costs £185, and there was an appeal to raise funds, and I'm pleased to inform you that the first phase was $1 million, and the second phase is $2 million. A total of $3 million have been pledged as support to Kadhimiya. And I'm very pleased to inform you that since we launched the appeal on around 4th of Muharram, and within 12 days, alhamdulillah, within the first 2 weeks of Muharram, we managed to raise, with your support globally, $1 million, alhamdulillah. Ma salli ala wa ali Muhammad. There's still a long way to go. So inshallah, whoever can participate in this great cause, every person who recites namaz on those tiles, every ziyarat that is performed, you get the perpetual sawab for everybody who participates, inshallah ta'ala. Last but not least, I would like to just share with you the World Federation's agenda going forward. There are 2 key areas that we are heavily working hard to achieve, inshallah, with your du'as and support, and this is our community project. The first one is that there are many members of our community that are economically suffering at the moment, particularly in Pakistan, in India, and in Africa. In India, we have approximately 2,500 families, in Pakistan around 3,000 families, and in East Africa and Africa in general around 500 families who live below $300 to $500 a month. This is very difficult. There are those who don't have proper education. There are those who barely can afford their groceries. So the World Federation, together with the regions and the Jamaat, are working on various projects to enhance the education standards so that the future of such families are secure, to help provide them with low-cost housing, and at the same time to look at things like microfinance loans and other abilities so that these families could be uplifted to a better, at least a life of economic dignity, which we assume here in the West. So the World Federation is embarking upon these projects, various initiatives from education to housing to health, to establishment of health support as well, and microfinance will be announced in due course. And again, I humbly seek the generous community of Peterborough to participate, inshallah, in these projects that I'm sure will be announced through your good self, Rizwan Bhai, inshallah. And last but not least, is a very important project that we are working towards, and that is the challenges of our time. Today, we have challenges. Raising our kids in today's environment is not easy. Our kids are living in a digital environment, in a virtual environment. And the parents are finding it hard to raise their kids in this environment. Not only the kids, even the youths. And those who are growing up in an environment with various ideologies and various school of thoughts and various peer pressures and influences in society. For the sustainability of the Khoja Shia Ishnashri community, our baqa, our eternality, our remaining and preserving the endangered species of our community is to adhere to the madhab of Muhammad and Ala Muhammad. Our faith and our iman and what exactly is happening here right at this Imambara at this point in time and strengthening these ethos is the only way for the survival of our community down the line. And for that, the World Federation is embarking upon an ambitious project of setting up a state-of-art Islamic Research Institute here in the West, so that we provide an environment, a friendly environment, a safe environment for our young people and for the elders to come and discuss the undiscussable in the presence of the best scholars of our time, scholars who have reached the highest repute of knowledge, scholars who have graduated in the Hawza Ilmiya in Najaf and Qom, but at the same time opening the door for discussion with the academia, so that today's modern pedagogy and knowledge is understood because our youth speak a different language. Yet we want to maintain the fundamental ethos taught to us by our Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt. And this is the challenge that we are taking upon. We feel there is no choice but to ensure that we have such a resource center, such a research center. There is a lot of work to be done. We need a lot of your du'as, and I have no doubt there is always Peterborough Jamaat will support us in this endeavor. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the wasila of A'immah Tahirin that may Allah give us the tawfiq to continue this work. Thank you once again very much for this opportunity. It's a real pleasure to be here once again in Peterborough. I look forward to meeting some of you inshallah after the program. Jazakallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Safza Jafar Sahib, Sant Bar Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
सलवात नारे तकबीर नारे रिसारत नारे हैदरी अपनी हयात अपने अमल अपनी ज़ात को अपनी हयात अपने अमल अपनी ज़ात को अल्लाह के वजूद की पहचान कर दिया अल्लाह के वजूद की पहचान कर दिया जिंदा की तेरगी में इबादत का नूर है जिंदा की तेरगी में इबादत का नूर है सिद्दे को रोशनी के निगहबान कर दिया सलवात
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. فاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا مولانا حبيب الله العالمين أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على القوم الظالمين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله عبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله الآخر الأحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، يا رحمة الله الواسعة، يا باب نجاة الأمة، ويا عبرة لكل مؤمن ومؤمنات، غريب مظلوم كربلاء. فيا ليتني يا ليتني كنا معكم سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله يأمركم أن تعدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها، وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. Insaf Allah wa insaf al-nas. This is what Imam Ali says to Malik al-Ashtar when he sends him to Egypt. Your role in this new land is, number one, do justice to God. Do right by Allah Azza wa Jal. Know your huquq based on what has been ordained by Allah. As we discussed, the true definition of adl, justice, is this: treating everything according to its proper place and maqam as established by God. If Allah has an order to do something, I follow it based on my relationship with Him. And after I can do this and reach this level where I'm doing justice to God, wa insaf al-nas, now I'm ready to go in society and go among the people and start allocating everyone's huquq based on their maqam, based on their rights. I've learned from God about rights and huquq, and now I'm ready to go into society and find out what my role is in that society. This is where we got in looking at the letter 52 or 53 in some versions of Nahj al-Balagha, when the Imam gives it to Malik and sends him to a new land to establish a new society in the same place where before Malik, other governments had been there with a completely different system. Those who have been following since the first lecture have been following certain steps. First of all, we established this idea that I want to know what my role is. I want to know it. What's expected of me, especially when it comes to establishing justice on this earth. What is my role? If everyone's been allocated a certain responsibility, what's mine? Where do I fit into this whole system? And we agreed yesterday that first of all, it comes from God. But the next step is this. Now that you know what huquq is to Allah, how do you know what your role is to your community? Where do I fit into this system? This is where we are so far. Please read salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In this letter, which we'll continue studying, we now come to one of the most important parts of the entire letter, which is, what does the ideal society of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam look like? If all people have their certain rights, everyone, and they belong in different categories, what does it actually look like to live in an environment where the roads have been paved according to the orders of Ali, where every feature has been managed by how he wants us to live? The templates we're given in this letter looks like the ideal society. Now, in it, every single community has its own responsibility, all of them, and they've been named. Imam alayhi salam named 7. He gives a name for 7 different groups in society, and each person, each worker fits into one of these 7. Now today we'll look at 6 of them, because tomorrow inshallah I want to focus on the last of them. And we will see that by seeing how Imam alayhi salam describes his picture of an ideal society, how can I make my society like that one? And just like he tells Malik, you have to do X, Y, and Z to build the society, which of those lessons for Malik are injunctions upon me, that I must do these same things today to build my society? Inshallah, today we'll have a look at how people are part of Adl, and specifically how 6 of those 7 are exactly how our qawm should look like, inshallah. That's our discussion. If you are with me for this discussion, salawatu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And like we have been doing every night, the majalis of Arba'een is part of our role, our responsibility to the Imam of our time. So to welcome him to this gathering, Imam al-Qaim al-Hujjah wa Zaman, salawatu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam alayhi salam then moves on in this letter to the next section about certain people who should not be in power. These people, because of their qualities, should not be allowed near authority. He says, Malik, there are some groups of people I don't want you to affiliate with. Of them, number 1 is those who are bakhil, those who are misers, who are stingy. He says, if you are near these people who are considered bakhil, he says, بَعْدِلُ بِكَ عَنْ فَضْلٍ وَيَعْدِلُكَ الْفُقَرَاءِ. They're going to make sure that you stop giving out of goodness and you stop helping the poor. Because the voice you're hearing in your ear is the voice of stinginess. Okay. He says, also those who are jabanan, those who are considered cowards, don't bring them near you. Don't give them a role in your authority, in your government. Because someone who's considered a coward is going to make you too da'if, they'll make you weak. And you no longer want to do what is required of you by Allah Azza wa Jal, because you're listening to cowards. And then he says, don't have anyone near who's considered greedy. Harisun, don't bring anyone who's greedy. Because the greed of the governors around you in wanting more and more and more just to amass their own wealth, it will make for you beautiful that which is ugly. Because now you'll want to collect wealth in ways which are not allowed just because you're surrounded by those of greed. He says, Malik, these groups, don't let them near you. Which groups? The coward, the stingy, and the greedy. Don't bring them near you. The worst person, he says, sharru wazari'ika, the worst wazir you can have for you is man kana lishara'ika al-qabla waziran, someone who used to partake in evil under the government before you. So these are like career politicians. What they did before you is the same role they're doing now. What did they do? وَمَنْ شَرَكَاءَهُمْ فِي الْأَثَمِ, and their whole lifestyle was to be part of the dhulm and sin of the people from power. They loved power. And they love to be part of the same sin from their role and authority. فَلَا تَكُونُوا لَكَ بِطَاعَنَا, and make sure that you don't make any of them your chief, someone who's in power among the others. Don't choose someone who before you was in power under the previous governments. Be careful of this fact for you. فَإِنَّهُمْ عَوَانُ الْعَثَمَةِ. If you do this, they will continue the same atham they did before, the same sin they were doing before. They're used to it. So if you give credit to the role they had, they're going to carry on the same task which they had before. Instead, Malik, look for someone who is a substitute to them, who has the same qualities where they can govern, they can lead, they can rule, but they were not part of any dhulm or itham. So they have the same qualities. For example, maybe they're good orators, maybe they are good with money, maybe they are good in finance, maybe they can, control a crowd. Whatever the quality is, choose them instead of the ones who are already in power. Okay. We have a narration to Imam Ali alayhi salam. Read the salawat, please. Where once now, when he becomes the Khalifa, Ibn Abbas says to him, listen, Ya Imam, you are the Khalifa now, you're in power, you're in charge. And currently in Arabia and in the Muslim Ummah, there are already governors in different provinces who know those lands. In Basra, in Egypt, in Misr, in Kufa, wherever. They know those lands. I know you are Ali, and I know you have your friends and those who are good according to in your eyes. Why not just leave those who are in power? Let them be in charge. They know the lands, and use them for your purposes. Like they already are in charge. They've been there for decades. They know the qawm. Give them orders. They'll do your work for you. Remember, these are people who were in power under the first, second, and third khulafa. Imam says no. He says to his answer, الَّذِي يَلْزِمُنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ. It is lazim on me, wajib on me to establish haqq. I can't do this. I can't give a role to someone who was part of sin just before. Shariq min dhalim min dhulm wa al-ihtham al-atham. Someone who's present in the dhulm of the dhalim and in the sin of the sinner. I can't do this. Now someone might say politically, this is smart, what Ibn Abbas is saying. Why not use the people in power? They're already there. Use them, use their tongue. They've already got a coalition of forces among them, and just make them, arms extended from your own body of power. But for Imam Ali alayhi salam, the one who rules must have certain level of adab and akhlaq. They can't just be anyone. And being astute, for example, siyasi or politically, is not enough anymore. He says, Malik, when you're choosing someone, I would rather you choose someone who is habitually speaking truth before you. Even if you say something which was not true, they're the kind of person who would correct you. Even if you're going wrong and you're going off the cliff. Someone who they only speak what Allah approves, associate with those who are God-fearing and who have sidq. وَسَقُّ بِأَحْلِ الْوَرَى وَالصِّدِّقِينَ. Those people that when you're with them, they remind you of God and they take you towards truth. They are the ones who should be in power with you. This kind of person. Read salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is someone, like I mentioned, who's constantly doing amal ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar. That's why they're in power. They're not there for any other reason except to enjoin good and forbid evil. In one narration I'll mention for you, Abdullah ibn Abbas comes to Ali alayhi salam. He says, وَدَخَلْتَ عَلِي أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام صلوات الله عليه. Read the salawat please again. But the Qar, he was on the way to the battle. He was going to fight the people of Basra. He was on his way to the war. At some point he stopped. وَهُوَ يَخْسِفُ نَعْلَهُ. I saw him sitting, stitching his shoe on the way to the battle. Okay. فَقَالَ لِي مَا قِيمَةُ هَذَا النَّعْلَ. He said to me, Ibn Abbas, what is the value of this shoe that I'm stitching? فَقُلْتُ لَا قِيمَةَ لَهَا. I said, there's no value to this shoe. It's literally worthless. It is like the kind of sandals you wouldn't buy in the market. No value in them whatsoever. قال, Ali said to me, وَاللَّهُ لَأَحَبُّ عَلَيَّ مِنْ عَمَرْتِكُمْ. I love this shoe more than I love leading over you. This worthless shoe that you said has no qima, I prefer this shoe than leading over you. Except, إِلَّا أَنْ أَقِيمُ الْحَقِّ وَأَوْدَحْفُ الْبَاطِلِ. Except that maybe, if I'm in power, I can establish haqq and speak against batil. That's the only thing which gives me value in being a leader over you. Otherwise, I don't need to rule over you. I don't need this power, this energy. I don't need people to have this maqam for me. All I want is amal ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar. Enjoin good, forbid evil. It's the same reason why Abu Abdullah Husaini ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam sets out from his land. He says, I'm not leaving for any la dhalim wa la ashn wa la batir. I'm not leaving for any of these things. إنما خرج لطلب الإصلاح في أمتي جدي. I'm leaving to reform the ummah of my grandfather Hussein. What's gone wrong? He says again, because people are no longer doing amal ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar. It's only because of this that I'm not giving bayat to Yazid, because people are no longer speaking against wrong. They're silent, they're quiet. And those are people who are actually of truth. Their voice is silent. And those of batil are so loud. Their voice is continuous in this land. That's why I'm leaving. Imam says same thing to Malik. Malik, surround yourself by the kind of person that if you're doing wrong, they would correct you. And if you want to do right, they'll support you. Not because you're in power, because they themselves have some i'tibar to haqq. They have some relation to haqq. And because of this, they want to be with you. Be with someone like this. When you are with this, remember, the person who is good, وَلَا يَكُونُ الْمُحْسِنُ وَالْمُسِيءُ عِنْدَكَ بِمَنْزِلَةِ السَّوَاءِ. Don't put in the same maqam the one who is right and the one who is wrong. The one who's muhsin, who's good, and has proved to you they're good. Don't treat them just like someone who's bad. Treat them differently. Someone who's an open sinner, a fasiq, is not the same. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the Quran says, أَفَمَنْ مُؤْمِنًا وَكَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا وَلَا يَسْتَوُونَ. They're not the same, the mu'min and the fasiq. The mu'min and the open sinner are not the same. Don't treat them the same way. Malik, when you're assigning a governor, if you see someone who has certain qualities, don't think I'm going to compare them to someone who is bad. These people are not the same. Treat everyone وَالْزِمْهُ كُلَّ مِنْهُمْ بِالْأَلْزِمَةِ نَفْسَهُ. Treat everyone according to their maqam, according to their level. What did we say yesterday? This is adl. Adl, justice is whatever their maqam is, you treat them according to it. If their maqam is power, you give them power. If it's not, they don't deserve it. Don't give any favorite treatment or good impression towards them. The only thing you should do, Ya Malik, is choose someone to rule alongside you who has good behavior and who will lighten the hardship of the trouble among the people. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا فَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا. The mu'min and fasiq are not the same. Don't treat them like they're the same. During the life of the Imam, he had a constant problem, which was people either choosing, do I follow Ali or do I follow Muawiyah? This is constantly happening. In one letter, the Imam says to the people, why are you comparing me to Muawiyah? What do I have to do with Muawiyah? What's my comparison to him? You're comparing me to someone who has none of the lightness of my feet towards worship. Muawiyah, whose whole mentality is to gather wealth. Me, Ali, he says, even if, in one narration, all of the heavens and all of the inhabitants of the heavens were to come to me and try to make me go against haqq, I would not even misappropriate 1 wheat of barley from the Baytul Mal. All of heaven was to come towards me. And all of the people of heaven, wanting just one thing, one small grain to be taken from one to another, I would not do it. This is Ali. You're comparing me to Muawiyah? We are not the same. Same thing here. Don't judge people who are different as if they are one. They are not the same. So many years after, when the La'in, Walid bin Utbah, speaks to Imam Hassan alayhi salam and looks at Imam Hassan alayhi salam and actually curses the Imam alayhi salam to Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he does la'an of him to his face. Imam Hassan says, you're cursing my father. In this verse of the Quran, أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا وَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. The mu'min is not like the fasiq. Your tongue curses Ali. But in this verse, Ali is called the mu'min. And your father is called the fasiq. They are not the same. Who are you to do la'an of me when Quran does la'an of your whole family? You compare us, la'an of Ali, compared to the hukm of Ali. They are not the same thing. This verse which all of us read, worship Allah, follow the Prophet and those in authority among you. Before this verse is the verse I mentioned in the beginning of the Quran, of this lecture. In Allahu bi'amrukum an tu'addu al-amanati. Allah Azza wa Jal has ordered you to give back to the people their amana, their trust. Meaning, if you're going to do justice, like Ali says to Malik, and he mentioned this verse later on, your role is just to give back to the people, give back amana to them. What's amana? Well, could it be money? Could it be wealth? Could it be goodness? Who knows? Allama Tabatabai says something about this verse allows us to go deeper. The amana which every single imam must give back to the people is something which they owe the people, which the people need. For example, hidayah. An imam's role is to come to the people and give you hidayah. For example, ilm. An imam is rasikhuna fil ilm, deeply entrenched in knowledge. So their role is to give you ilm, give you knowledge. We have a narration from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam that the amana which the imams will give you if you go to them is we will give you ma'rifah of our own maqam, who we are. We'll give this to you. If you want to know who we are, we'll give it to you. We'll show it to you. So in one narration, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, come towards me, ilm is dripping from my hands, take it from me. Or in another place he says, ilm is gathered in my chest, if only you will take it from me. In another place, Ali alayhi salam buries his hands in the sand and says, I have so much knowledge to give, but no one here to take it from me. So the amana Ahlul Bayt give to us if we go to them is they give us ma'rifah of who they are. That's this amana. Imam says, Malik, when you're choosing someone to be in power and to be your governor after you, or your successor, or to even work with you, you must make sure they have certain qualities. This is one of those qualities. They remind you of Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, now we can come to this idea of what are those 7 groups who qualify in this. Read the salawat, please. Imam says, Malik, among the people, know something. وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ الرَّعِيَّةُ لِلْتِبَقَاتِ. Among the people, there are 7 classes, 7 groups. Each of these groups has a role to play in society, all of them, and they work together. One of them is the army. They are the bedrock of your qawm. They will protect you and protect this deen. The army come from the people, the ra'iyya. The people need the army to protect them, to save their borders and to extend their land. That's their role. Okay. Sometimes they'll have disputes among them, so they'll need a judge. The judge needs a chief judge to govern over those judges. When the judge gives a hukum, there must be a secretary worker or an administrator or some body of admin people who institute this ruling. Okay. If there are contracts, the contracts need people who gather money. Okay, you need revenue collectors now. When they're gathering money, you need someone to earn the money like business people or tajir, who are salesmen. Now, if there are some with money, then there'll be some who have no money, they have no wealth whatsoever, they'll be in this qawm as well. Gradually, you'll see each of them exist in this qawm. And know something. فالجنود, for example, the army are there, all of them are there. وَلِكُلِّ عَلَى الْوَالِ حَقٌّ بِقَدْرِ مَا يُصْلِحُ. Every single one of these groups goes back to Allah Azza wa Jal. The army, the secretaries, the admin, the business person, the poor, the mustad'afin, the judge, all of them have haqq from Allah Azza wa Jal. Your role is to treat each of every one of them according to their huquq. Now, let's look at 6 of them to see how these forms look. To help us, I'll make a point for all of you. We're not living in Egypt right now before I read them, so I'm not literally alive now where they're going to be in charge of me. But each group has some qualities I can adopt in my life, especially in my own business, in my life, in how I treat my ra'iyya, my family, for example. What are they? Read one Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Awal is Junudik, is the army. He says, Malik, the army, make sure you put in command someone in the army who is the best of the people, who is the well-wisher of the people. Their role is to follow Allah, wal Rasul, wal Amamik and the Imam, and to be following the Imam and the Kitab. They must be religious, they must have that taqwa. Once you choose them, make sure there's someone that their heart is clean and they are slow not to get enraged. They accept i'tidar, excuse. They are kind when someone has a problem. When they are weak, they are kind. When there's someone strong, they are strict. Violence doesn't make them angry, and calmness does not make them weak. They have hikmat. When do I stand? When do I sit? When do I take that Hassani approach? When do I take that Husaini approach? Now, when you choose the army, choose them min baytika min salihin, min families which are already good. So when you choose someone to be in the army and to lead the army, their family must already support Islam at that time. They must follow the traditions. They must have honor and azza among them. I want you, Malik, to treat the army like a father treats children. How? He gives an example. He says, when you have a child, maybe those of you who have children, you relate to this. When you have a child, if you make a promise to the child remembers that promise. Even if you think it's small, they'll remember that promise as big. If the child wants something from you and you do it, and people say to you, mashallah, you're such a good father, you're such a good mother, you did so much for your child. For you, it's like, no, this is my child, they deserve these things. No action is too big for a child that you do with them. When a child comes to you with an achievement, even if it's not that good, you say, mashallah, good work, child, good work. If they come to you, they draw a picture. Okay, maybe the picture's a little bit dead, but they worked hard. I'll reward them for it. Well done. Maybe in some cases, I've done a great deed for them. I raised them. I gave them food. I gave them shelter. You should not constantly remind them of what you've done for them. This is not a good parent to make them feel bad. Malik, this is how you should be. When the soldiers do good, make them feel good about it. If they do one small thing, make it large in your eyes. If they do a wrongdoing, don't make it like the end of the world, guide them. Your role as the leader, as the commander, Malik Ashtar is the commander of the army anyway, is to treat them like your children. You reward them for good deeds. You don't punish them for that which is too wrong. You want them to be well-wishers for you, and you don't want them to stop coming to you with their matters. So have a good relationship. Here's Malik. The commander of the army is the most important of all of the army. So the commander, the one who's going to rule over them, he must be someone who's able to control the finances of the rest of the soldiers. Why? Because if the soldiers aren't getting money in their homes, they can't focus on fighting. So when you give a wage, this is good for all of us, when you give a wage to someone, what you're saying to them is, I want you to focus on the work I'm giving. If you give too little wage to someone, they're going to look elsewhere for more money. They'll be distracted. His Malik, no. When one of the soldiers needs wealth, your commander must give them enough wealth that their family do not come to me with complaints that why is the soldier not getting enough money, that they keep fighting with them. Malik, When you are going to go on different battles, you are going to enjoy establishing justice if the army loves you, if they have muhabbat for you. So my injunction upon you is make sure that the army adore you because you are good and kind to them. And if they do a good performance, one soldier, don't attribute the good performance of one soldier to another soldier. Don't reward him for what he's done. Make sure you're fair to all of them. Imam then says, have fierce loyalty for your soldiers. For example, he says in another narration, not in the letter, that if one person is to violate the haqq of the Muslims, it is as if they are an entire army who's attacked you. Don't allow even that one act of dhulm to go unpunished. This feeling, this mentality of this militarism gives you honor, it gives you izzah, that we're like an army. We're like a jaysh, a lashkar, an askar. That's who we are. And this is the bedrock of the entire qawm. In the beginning is the army. They are the basis. The second group after them is the judge. So the Imam says, ثُمَّ أَخْتَرُ لِحُكْمِ بَيْنَكُمَ النَّاسِ أَفْضَلُ رَعِيَّةٍ. Choose amongst the people the best of them to be the judge. Now, for any of you who has a job in which you're making decisions and you're making genuine options which affect people's lives, this is for you, if you're making decisions in your role. This is Malik. The second group is the judges, the hukama. When they're ruling, choose among the people the best of the people, to choose the one who rules over them. The most distinguished, someone, the kind of person, think if you're like this. When an issue comes to them, they don't get vexed. When a dispute comes to them, they don't become enraged. When there's a wrong point, they don't insist on that wrong point. When there's someone who has a grudge, they don't act out of personal animosity to them who has a grudge towards them. They don't act out of greed. And even if they have a very small understanding of something, they don't stop there. They keep seeking more and more knowledge. When shubuhat come to them, when something doubtful comes to them, they don't act. They stop. They think of all of the hujjaj, the arguments for and against an issue. And they don't become distracted by arguments among people. They probe a matter themselves. When it's time for judgment, they are firm. They're not here and there. They're firm. They are brave when it comes to judgments. When people praise them for a good judgment, it doesn't sway them. When people come to influence them, they don't turn away. Ulaika qalil malik. There's very few people who are actually like this. But seek them out. Look for them. They become your judges. So now me and you, and remember, we mentioned a narration a few days ago from Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That ra'iyya, which the word I keep using means your subjects, who you rule over. All people have a ra'iyya. He says, all of you at some point in your life will rule over people. Even for a moment, or a family, or in business, or in a car journey, or anywhere. You're going to rule over people. How you treat those under whose authority you are afdal over them will depend on how you go towards Allah Azza wa Jal. Because if you violate haqq Allah, God might forgive you. But if you violate haqqun nas, you cannot enter Jannah unless that person forgives you. So when I'm in control of someone, I have to make sure all of my judgments are firm with them. So this person, once you've chosen them, Malik, check up on them. Check their judgments. Keep an eye on them. Meaning in the heart of Ali's system, there's accountability. Don't just leave someone to a job. Appoint someone whose role it is to constantly watch the work they are doing. Make sure that they are honest, that they are not giving rank to someone who does not deserve a rank that they should have. Because previously, this deen was sijn, it was a prison. And people in this religion were being enslaved by the ruling of the judge. Now that you're choosing the judge Malik, make sure that you choose someone who is honest and firm. Okay, read one Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Third, those who you must watch now are those who are employees, normal workers, executive officers. So now if you're someone who has employees under you, or you yourself are an employee of an employer, this applies to you. Here's Malik. Now pay attention to those people who are just doing jobs which they're employed to do in the government, either by the judge or by the army or wherever. Don't appoint anyone because they are a favorite to you, or because you have a partiality to them or their family. Don't use this as the basis for appointing them. Appoint them ba'da imtihan, after testing them, according to the role which they should be doing. If they pass that test, they deserve that role. If they show to you experience and modesty in that role. SubhanAllah, if you wanted, you could use this to make an actual job description for an employee. test them first. If they show to you these two things, experience and modesty, and consider them if they then come from a virtuous house again, the whole tarbiyat makes the employer. So if their family is good and honest and followed Islam before and has amal salih, then choose them from that house. Make sure they keep their eyes on different matters. Again, Malik, now you must watch their salary. Make sure they are not paid so little that they go to others for their livelihood. That's the problem. That's the problem. Because if you do, they're going to look for them and them and them for their money. And each different person wants to influence and sway their opinion. Don't allow them to be swayed by others. They must follow what you say. And then choose someone to report on them again. Accountability one more time. Don't leave them to their devices. An employee must have a supervisor. This is from Ali ibn Abi Talib. And that supervisor's role it is to watch their work and is careful of them. Malik, be careful of assistants. An assistant is someone, Imam Ali says, who works under the employer or the employee who you've given. Sometimes they may extend their hands towards something which is not for them. Don't let them do this, because anything they take is going to come back towards you. Punish them, be firm with them, and let the people know, if you take away even 1 ounce of the treasury of others, or the dhulm, you take the haqq of someone else, there is a necklace of shame on your neck. So this third group is any employee. Watch them, watch their work, watch their supervisors, and watch the money which you're paying them. Okay. The fourth group are those who are controlling kharaj, which is the revenue, the money coming in and out of the government. In an ideal Islamic qawm, you have Baytul Mal. Baytul Mal is like the public treasury, like the public funds that we might have in other governments. This is where all the money comes in and out. And from the public funds, it's allocated to different groups. This is going to the army, this is going to health, this is going to the ulama, going to the mosque, whatever. That's Baytul Mal, the ones who collect money from far away towns and come back with that money and bring it back. Watch their work. Amalul Kharaj. These people, watch them, but more than you watch them, watch the land which they're coming from. This is so important. In economics, there's different schools of thought about how and where wealth comes from. Some believe wealth comes from the means of production, from the earth, from the land, from the people, from these things. Others say no, wealth comes from wealth management. So finance, banking, this kind of currency and currency exchange. That's where true wealth comes. There's different schools of thought. One economist who I read his works read this letter and says that Ali proves true wealth comes from the earth. Why? Imam Ali says to Malik, I want you to watch the land before you watch the collection of the money from the land. Why? Because the revenue does not come without cultivation. If all your attention is to the money itself and not to where the money is coming from, you are going to ruin the area in your attention which is somewhere else. And you're going to bring a death to the people, and your rule will only last for a moment because all your attention was on money itself, not on the lands where the money came from. Then he gives them an example. I'll give you the same example which he gives to Malik. This is to all of you. Imagine now you're in power. You're in charge now. You've made it. And you're running the government. One of your revenue collectors comes to you and he has not got the money he's supposed to have. He's not got it. He says the reason why, the example Imam Ali gives, there was a flood in the road, so I couldn't come towards you. The land was oversaturated, there was no wealth to come from the land. Any reason, the rain was pouring too much, anything. In fact, we use this reason a lot why I'm late to a meeting. Yalla, it was raining. We say it. Imagine this. He's come to you. He said, I've not got the money you asked of me. How will you act? He says, Malik, if someone comes to you like this, forgive them, be kind to them, be gentle with them, and do favors upon them. And let them know it's fine, it's okay. All their life they will thank you for what you did for them when they made a mistake. He says, then Malik, one day you're going to be in trouble and your government will need money. That same revenue collector will remember your kindness then. And on that time, they will do a favor to you like you did a favor to them in that moment. Meaning, when they're collecting the revenue towards you, be kind to them, be gentle with them. Circumstances are going to change for you and money is going to come and go. What remains is the wafa they have for you. So to any of you who live in a role where you're managing money or someone's managing money for you, this is a reminder to all of us that although the wealth is the priority in a business, it's not the priority in the walaya, the love I have for that person. If they make a mistake, my Imam wants me to be kind with them, firm, but kind with them. Whereas the Imam is much more firm with the money itself, not with the people. I'll give you another example. Imam alayhi salam is now traveling through the lands which was previously in control by the third Khalifa. Now he's the Khalifa. And he sees many lands where the wealth has been plundered because of the activity of Banu Umayyah. The wealth is gone from this land. Banu Umayyah did many wrongdoings. You can barely mention their right compared to their wrong. The money's been taken away. Imam says, Wallah, even if, he says, money had been taken from this land and used to purchase slaves, I would free those slaves, find wherever they are, free them in order to return every dirham back to the person where it came from. That's the haqq of Ali, the justice of Ali. Every single penny, every dinar goes back to its owner. The people, I'm kind, I'm loving with them, but the money remains firm. Those who collect the kharaj must be like this. When I collect money from them in my own life, I must be firm with the money, keep an eye on the finances, but kind to the person. Read Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, number 5, look at the condition of those who are considered admin, the clerical establishment. Watch them. This is the lowest of the lowest of the low of any government work. These people, the Imam says, they're the kind of people who are going to be collecting your letters, sharing your letters, speaking on your behalf to different audiences, presenting your communications, issuing your replies, speaking on your behalf. Be careful of them. Choose someone who has good character, who's not praised when they are honored. Why? Because if they represent you, and they say, this is a person who represents Malik al-Ashtar, people will treat them differently knowing who they're linked to. They need to be humble. They need to be humble. Hadith I mentioned yesterday, I think I mentioned yesterday what the Imam is, place humility before you and your enemy like a watchtower, watching over everything. Be humble. Even the lowest of the low of your employees must be like this, your admin staff, your interns, those at work experience. Make sure every letter they send, Imam alayhi salam says, corresponds with what you actually said. And when they speak for you, make sure they know what you believe more than you know what others believe. Because if they speak for you, they cannot make a mistake in your position when judging others' positions and telling you what other people think. When you select them, don't choose them just because you like them, or because you know them, or because you have an idea of them. Choose them after examining them. How virtuous are they? And after you examine them, now you must allocate a role for them. Malik, give a different person a different role as if it's a different department. Imam Ali says this in his government. Every worker belongs to a different department. Every work's allocated, every allocation has taqsim, and each different qism of work which is done has someone who's in charge. You now go to the one in charge. Everyone has a system of accountability. People think Islam is backwards. Look at how in-depth this system is. Each person in the system will report back to the one above. Then they'll come towards you. If anyone in the chain has a defect, from the lowest admin to the highest, it will always come back to you, Malik. So make sure you are careful in the appointment of every level of this. And 6th of this are those people who are the business people and tujjar. It's very important, inshallah, at the moment. Read Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Malik. There are some people in your community who will be earning money in business. Think if you're in this field. Some will have fixed shops. Some will be traveling to make their money. In our language, traveling could technically mean someone who's working not in one place. You can be working remotely or in different places as a contractor. Some people are working fil wahid maqam, in one place. Some are those who are dawarun, they're moving back and forth. That's their role. Watch both of them. As for the physical laborers, those doing the actual hard work in the qawm, they are bringing you the base level of profit, and they're going far away in new places, and they are the ones who are actually advancing the deen. Traders who are going in their caravans, going into new lands. Watch them. Because everywhere they go, whether it's in the land or sea or plains or mountains, they go where you can't. People don't harm them because they do business with them, but they might harm you. Look after them, but be careful about them. Those engaged in business, Imam Ali says, could become narrow-minded or business-minded. Maybe they will hoard goods to extend their profits. Malik, don't let them hoard. It's against Islam to hoard in this way. Saving is one thing, hoarding is another. Because Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has prohibited the excess hoarding of wealth. And he's prohibited the adjustment of the different mizan, the scales, to make them wrong according to the actual value of the goods you're measuring. So if you, for example, measure gold or any wealth, adjusting the value just for the sake of adjusting it is not allowed. And of course, there are certain conditions to this. When a business person makes a mistake, you must make an example of them and give them an exemplary but not excessive punishment, just to show people even the person doing business must go back to Allah in their huquq. Every single pound or dollar or cryptocurrency which they manage must be done according to how Allah wishes. This is important for you. We have one narration that 9 out of 10 of that which is our deen is gaining halal rizq, gaining halal money in our jobs. We spend most of our time in truth at work than with our families sometimes. Why do we think I can do any job in the world and I come home and do namaz and everything's fine? That job must be deeni, just like my namaz is deeni. Every breath is ibadat in the day of the mu'min, from when you wake up to when you sleep. So Malik, this 6th group of the business people, watch them, be careful, because the foundational income source of your qawm is business. Even in our qawm, that's the nature of things, so watch them. The 7th group, which I won't go into today, is those who are poor, those who are mustad'afin. Imam Ali has a very special place for the poor, those who are, in poverty. For them, there's a completely different worldview I must act with them, which is different to how I act for myself. We'll go through that tomorrow. But it's enough to say today that in the ideal society of the Imam, everyone has a different place, whether you're a judge, or you're a worker, or an employee, or admin, or in the army, or if you're not working, it doesn't matter. Everyone has their own maqam. At this point, I want to ask all of you a question and think about this to yourself. In my society right now, like where I live now, do I feel like I belong here in my society? Do I have a place in the society? Imam Ali's system is so precise. Everyone's got their own maqam. But do I feel that in my life, in my job, for example, or even in my general lifestyle? In some schools of thought, and Syed Mutahari explains this for us quite beautifully, some people don't have that feeling of community. They feel, you know what, I'm an individual, I'm just me. Okay, I meet people, I come to the masjid, I go to work and I do these things, but truthfully, I'm not that qawm, I'm just an individual, I'm alone, I'm a traveler, I don't belong in that qawm. I have no community as such, I'm an individual, I'm here by habit, okay. Then there are others who think, the answer to, do I feel like I belong? I feel like I'm a part in a machine. And that machine is working and I have some part to play. Maybe I'm a doctor or a dentist or I have some worker. But my role is completely like being a part in the machine. I am the sum of a larger body. That's all I am. When someone meets you, they say, what's your name? MashaAllah, what do you do? They identify you by your job. It's a very capitalist society where you're identified by your actual wealth. People in our community are given respect based on how much money they earn sometimes. Ask yourself, do I feel like this? Where, okay, this all sounds great, but really, I don't feel like I belong. I'm just one part. I'll die, someone will do the same job as me, Allah, everything moves on. Others say, maybe I feel like I'm living in a melting pot, where all of us are melted into this one pot, and I lose my identity. I'm just doing what's expected of me. I went to a school my parents chose for me. I did a job people said was good. I got married at an age people said to get married to. I had kids because that's what you do. I did a job because, well, that's how you get through life, to pay taxes. I pay taxes so that I could pay my mortgage. I pay my mortgage so I can live in my house. I live in my house so that on the weekends when I'm not working, I can go to the park. And when it's done, when it's all said and done, when I'm old and tired and I'm going to die, I look back and say, well, what was I doing this whole time? Did I control anything in my life? Everything was controlled by someone else, a different force. Some are like this. They're like, you know what, in my life, I don't make choice of myself. I'm just following the consumer liquid of a melted pot. That's what I'm doing. What's expected of someone in my family, in my social status. Shahid Mutahari, one of our great scholars, says these are all fine for others. But in Islam, we have something called the social spirits. In the ideal qawm of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, we are all one spirit, one ruh, one nafs. And we are connected by our own souls, let alone our bodies. For example, does your Prophet Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam not say that my qawm is like a body, my ummah is like a body? If one part feels in pain, the whole body feels hurt. And if one person's in suffering, all of us are in pain because of that suffering. That's my qawm. Okay, here comes Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam to add to this point with another salawat. Ya Ali. Ya Ali. Imam says, the one who wakes up in the morning and does not think of their fellow believer in distress is not from us, our Shia. They're not ours. They don't belong to us. Why? If you don't wake up and think of the other believers around the world, whether in my hometown or anywhere else, if you don't think of them, Imam Sadiq says, you're not from us. You're not one of us. You don't belong to us. Why? We have something, I'm adding to this point, the hadith ends, called walaya with an A, horizontal walaya, where because I love Ali and because you love Ali, I don't care about your name, your culture, your community, your age. If you love my Mawla, I love you. And if you love my Mawla, I have muhabbat for your whole family. We are one soul, one nafs. This is walaya of Ahlul Bayt, the love of Ahlul Bayt, where I don't even need to know you, but I met you once in a majlis and now I'm doing dua for you every night at Salatul Layl. I met you once at Hajj years ago. I haven't seen you again. But when I saw you 10 years ago, my whole heart became soft for you. This is walaya. I'll end with one metaphor which the Holy Prophet gives, which Shaykh Mutahari again quotes. For all of us to imagine, do I really feel like this, where we are all one being? Imagine you are on a boat, a ship, all of you, sitting in different places on this boat. One person in where they're sitting makes a hole in their boat, in their area, and water comes up. Someone says to them, cover up that hole or we're going to drown. And they say, it's in my section, not yours. Why are you worrying about it? The hole's on my seat. Why are you concerned? They don't understand. If you drown, I drown. If you're in pain, I'm in pain. If you go down, we all go down. I can't allow even a second of dhulm to you or I suffer. This is walaya, true walaya. And this ship which we are on is no ordinary ship. This is Safinatun Najat. This is Husain's ship. Every single azadar of Husain is a fellow brother and sister on this boat. We're going to the same destination, towards Allah Azza wa Jal. Husain's taking us. If I do matam with you, if I cry with you, if I mourn with you, if I invite you to my majlis, then if you're in pain, if you call me, I should come to you immediately. If my father or mother is in distress and I can't pick them up, if I call you, 1 second you should pick them up like it's your mother and father. If my grandfather's being buried and I say, I need someone to talqeen, you should be there like it's your grandfather. This is walaya. We are on one boat of Husain. Every majlis of Husain is a section of the land of Karbala. I want to go Karbala, I can't. But if you invite me to your home, it's like I'm part of the farsh of Karbala. I'm there. Why? I have that walaya. The true ideal qawm of the Imam is like this. When one's in distress, we're all suffering. And when one's happy, when you're at peace, I'm at peace. I'm happy. And anyone who loves you, I have that same love for you. In this qawm, we all have a different role. Ask yourself, what's my role? What role do I play in this community? Where do I fit into this whole thing? There is one community in this old community who are the most in pain and suffering. They are the mustad'afin, those who are weak, they have no rights. The poor, the homeless, the refugees, the beggars, those who ask, those who are too poor to even ask. Imam Ali has a whole section how to treat them. What is that section? Inshallah, we'll see that tomorrow in tomorrow's discussion, continuing this letter of Malik al-Ashtar, inshallah. That ends this part of our discussion on how I can have a role of justice in the qawm. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let us now, for the last moments of today's majlis, turn our minds and hearts towards the land of Karbala. We began the majlis saying that, earlier, I wish I could go to Karbala and walk to my Imam and be there with my Imam. I wish I had that blessing, but I don't. I'm here. I wish I, for example, could go and see the Khaymagha, where the tents of these shuhada were all placed together. Hur is here, Habib is there, Nafi is there. All of them are gathered together. Although all of the bodies which came back from the Maqtal were carried by the hands of Abu Abdullah, there is one body Hussein did not bring back to the camp. Of all of them, there's one broken body left at Furat of a brother who says, don't take my body back. Why? I promised your daughters water. And I would be ashamed to go back without this water. How can I go back? This is Abbas. I wonder, as we go through the Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham, how much did each woman and child miss Abbas? How much did they actually miss him, wishing that if only he was here, this wouldn't happen? This Abbas, who is the reason why we have an alam today, matam today, it all comes from Abbas. How much did they need him in Kufa when they went to Ibn Ziyad? Or when they went to Sham and they went through the Darbar and the Bazaar? When they were alone in the Zindan, how much did they need Abbas? There's one riwayat which hurts me. They say when Abu Fadl Abbas is leaving to go towards the Maqtal, he says goodbye to many people. Then he says goodbye to Zainab. But when he says goodbye, she starts crying and weeping. He says, my dear sister, I'm going to bring water for Sakina and bring water for the children. Why are you crying? She says something. She says, during my life, my father once told me, after his death, one day I will be paraded through the streets of Kufa and Sham. And I thought to myself, how can this be possible when I have a brother like you, Abbas? Everywhere I walk, you defend me. When I walk, no one sees my height because you defend me. But now that I see you walking to the Maqtal, I know not only I'll be paraded, my chadar will be taken from my head. Now I know. Now that you're leaving, now that you're going, Fadl Abbas, alayhi salam. This Abbas leaves. As he leaves, you know the masayib of how bravely he fights. One of the poets says when Abbas comes back from the battlefield carrying water, he doesn't even feel the pain of his left arm being cut, or the pain of his right arm being cut, or the pain of the arrows coming. But when one arrow strikes the mushk in his teeth, his whole body breaks. Why? How can I go back now when I promised water? And Sakina is saying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. So Abbas stays, and he can't go back. This is the one Wahid Shaheed who was brought back much later. Hussein couldn't bring him back. There's one strange riwayat. Those who are going to Karbala, the road towards Karbala now, first it goes to Abbas, then to the rest of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. One of our ulama from ages ago says, I had the blessing of going down into the basement of Fadl Abbas and cleaning water from the qabr when it was flooded. When I came down, I saw a strange thing. What? This grave of Abbas, which I thought would be long because he was so tall when he's on his horse, his feet go on the ground. Why is the qabr so small? Why? This Abbas who was so strong, so brave, why is the qabr so small? One alim said to me, do you know why it was so small? When Abbas was coming back from the battlefield, they were striking him. When the mashk was broken and he fell, one of them said, this is the son of Ali. If anyone wants revenge from Badr or Uhud, take your revenge. As they said this, one person struck the body of Abbas, one cut the arms of Abbas. This body was broken into so many small pieces. As he fell, his body became broken. That's why his qabr is so small. Why? Because his body was broken to such a degree. Now ask yourself, when the women and children are going now from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham, this Abbas who was so strong, now he's lying alone by Furat. No one's towards him. There's one sher I always remember when this time comes up. It's in Urdu, maybe you've heard it. When the shair says, Neze pe jitne sar hai, un sar mein ek hai sa. How is this? There's one head of all of the heads. Aankho hai band uski. There's one of the heads of Sham that all the heads, the eyes are open, but his eyes are closed. Why? Or khak sar pe girta hai. Sometimes his head falls. Why? Abbas ka ye sar hai. This is Abbas's head, meaning he can't see any women and children with no hijab. He can't see anyone striking Sakina. He can't see Imam Sajjad with so many chains on his body that his feet have become black and blue. So his eyes are permanently closed from this dhulm. After the events of Karbala and Kufa and Sham, they say they finally go back to Medina and they say, Ala qad qutila al-Husayn fi ardi Karbala. Now we'll tell all of the world and we'll announce from Medina onwards, Hussein has been killed on the day of Ashura in the land of Karbala. When they said this, many people came. One of the person who came was Baneen. When she came, she heard and said, which Hussein? For her, the idea that Hussein is killed was impossible. Which Hussein was killed? They said, who are you? She says, I am Baneen. They said, you're Baneen? Yes. May Allah have mercy on your son, Abdullah. She says, don't tell me about Abdullah. You just said Hussein being killed. Where is Hussein? They said, you are Baneen. May Allah have mercy on your son, Uthman. She said, don't tell me about Uthman. Where is my son Hussein? Then they said, may Allah have mercy on your son Ja'far. She says, stop mentioning those children. Where is my Hussein? Then they said, may Allah have mercy on your son Abbas. When she heard that, she says, wa Husaina, if Abbas has fallen, who is left to defend my Hussein? Baneen falls to the ground, starts weeping and crying. One riwayat says she then walks towards Baqi and says, I wish to speak to you, Ya Fatima, O Zahra. She says, Ya Fatima, I am not going to complain to you for my Abbas, because when he was called upon, he answered, I complained to you when my Abbas had been killed. Your Zainab and Kulthum, they had no chadar. I wish my Abbas was there to defend them in Sham. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا وقضائه وتسليما بأمره. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. For the sake of Abbas, protect every warrior defending the haram of any of our ma'sumin today, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, any shuhada who have died in this path, allow us to follow their path, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, this life we have here in the West, allow it to be a source of benefit and guidance for the world, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, any tears we have shed, any sadness in our hearts, may our sins be forgiven for the sake of this tears and sadness, Ya Allah. And finally, Ya Allah, this majalis, this gathering, your participation, may all of it lead you back to having loyalty and following the banner of Imam al-Qaim al-Hujjah wa Zaman, inshallah, Ya Allah. اللهم إني أسألك بحق فاطمة وأبيها وبعلي أبنيها والسر المستعود فيها أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد.
Ya Hussein, take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. I am the beggar who comes to your door. You will answer me. Of this I am sure. The one who gave Peterborough his wings, the one who praises Allah saying, do not turn me away. I've come from far away, waiting for just this day to kiss your shrine and say, take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. To see you shine, if they take my life away, I'd still come crawling to you, oh Hussein. Even if I face certain death, I'll call your name with every breath. Even death can't stop me, it is my only dream. You shrine I need to see. Hussein so desperately. Take
Me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala.
Without your love, I'd not have a heartbeat. The blood in my veins, the air that I breathe. You are my start, you are my end. You are more than I can understand. Don't let this distance grow. Please call me to your door. Look at my tears flow.
I can't wait anymore. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala.
We have been tortured and been imprisoned. We are killed daily without a reason, because we love you, O Hussein, and we call out your father's name. Ya Ali, we will say, as we will walk your way, every step, every day, from your path we won't stray.
Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala.
Even in my sleep, I dream of your land. I wish to hold and to kiss the sand,
The dust that cures
every disease, and in itself can intercede. My master in this life, the only wish of mine
is to die by your side, holding your golden shrine. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala. Take me to Karbala, 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 Karbala.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. मिलके पढ़े या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन. मेरे अब्बास के परचम को उठाए रखना, मेरे अब्बास के परचम को उठाए रखना, मेरे अब्बास के परचम को उठाए रखना. माशाल्लाह उठाए बुलंद आवाज से, मेरे अब्बास के परचम को उठाए, हाय हाय मेरे अब्बास के परचम को उठाए रखना, मेरे अब्बास के परचम को اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا ہے میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے غم شبیر کی قندیل غم شبیر کی قندیل جلائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم اٹھائے رکھنا میرے ماشاءاللہ جیے اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے بنت زہرا کو نہروں نے دیا لوگوں نے بنت زہرا کو نہروں نے دیا لوگوں نے ہے غم کے دریاؤں کو آنکھوں غم کے دریاؤں کو آنکھوں سے بہائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو ماشاءاللہ میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا بنت زہرا کو نہروں نے دیا لوگوں نے بنت زہرا کو نہروں نے دیا لوگوں نے ہے غم کے دریاؤں کو آنکھوں غم کے دریاؤں کو آنکھوں سے بہائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا ہے میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے قتل مظلوم کو آئیں گے چھپانے والے قتل مظلوم کو آئیں گے چھپانے والے ہے خون شبیر سے پردوں خون شبیر سے پردوں کو ہٹائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے ماشاءاللہ جیے کو اٹھائے رکھنا ہے میرے عباس کے پرچم کو تم سے وعدہ ہے یہ زہرا کا یہ جنت تیری تم سے وعدہ ہے یہ زہرا کا یہ جنت تیری ہے ہر جگہ ماتمی حلقوں ہر جگہ ماتمی حلقوں کو بنائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا ہے میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے تم سے وعدہ ہے یہ زہرا کا یہ جنت تیری تم سے وعدہ ہے یہ زہرا کا یہ جنت تیری ہے ہر جگہ ماتمی حلقوں ہر جگہ ماتمی حلقوں کو بنائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا ہے میرے عباس کے ماشاءاللہ بلند آواز سے ہے میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے جاتے شبیر نے رو رو کے کہا زینب سے جاتے شبیر نے رو رو کے کہا زینب سے ہے میرے سجاد کو مقتل میرے سجاد کو مقتل سے بچائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا میرے اٹھائے رکھنا ہے میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے رکھنا غم شبیر کی قندیل غم شبیر کی قندیل جلائے رکھنا میرے عباس کے رکھنا میرے عباس کے پرچم کو اٹھائے یا حسین 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 یا
اور محمد و آل محمد صلوات سورۃ المبارکۃ الفاتحہ
السلام علیک یا رسول اللہ السلام علیک یا امیر المؤمنین السلام علیک یا فاطمۃ الزہرا سیدۃ النساء العالمین السلام علیک یا خدیجۃ الکبریٰ السلام علیک یا حسن المجتبی السلام علیک یا ابا عبد اللہ الحسین وعلی تسعۃ المعصومین من ذریتک وعلی ابن الحسین ومحمد ابن علی وجعفر ابن محمد وموسى ابن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن أجل الله تعالى فرجا وسهل الله تعالى مخرجا وظهورا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كل وليك
وفي كل ساعة وإيام